All right. Hey there, everybody. This is Nathaniel from Lead into Gold with Astro Roundtable number 3. And for this one, I am looking at the concept of modalities. And when we talk about modalities, that is what we would refer to as the common three cardinal, fixed, and mutable qualities related to signs. So I want to look at what those three modalities stand for, represent in a few different ways, and give a few examples. So it's a fairly common thing to think that, out of the 12 signs, each sign is either cardinal, fixed, or mutable. And that's in addition to the element of the sign and other qualities. So earth, air, fire, water, that's talking about elements. But when we hear cardinal, fixed, and mutable, those are the three possible modalities that a sign can be. And there are four of each. So the cardinal signs are the first signs of each quadrant. And so that would be Aries, which is the first sign of all 12. So Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn are the cardinal signs. And cardinal signs are all about starting stuff, initiating, beginning, and taking action. And you can kind of mash up those qualities with the nature of the element to get a little bit more specificity about what the sign is like. So, like, for example, Aries is a cardinal sign is fire. And so that cardinal fire is just about, vitality and raw action, like just doing stuff, putting yourself into motion, going, doing, experiencing. Um, Cancer is a cardinal sign as far as starting. It is initiating things on a domestic front and for emotional security. It takes actions in ways that will booster security, booster comfort, insulation, all of those types of kind of putting a protective covering and cozying down, also nurturing family, but taking action in those nurturing and insulative type of measures. Libra takes actions as far as reaching out to others socially, meeting people, sparking conversations. It's that social outreach of taking action socially. And then Capricorn takes action physically with hard tasks to get them accomplished, the action to go from the beginning of something to the end and achieve a goal. Fixed signs, all of our fixed modality signs have something to do with holding. It's this quality of maintaining and fortifying, and it's got the theme of security. Our fixed signs are Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. And if we mash the elements up with them, we can see Taurus, is this holding when it comes to our resources, our physical money, our savings, those things that we enjoy. We want to hold on and accumulate and maintain and grow those things that are um, what we find pleasurable, what we find to be our resource. I also saw in the chat the question, what is a modality? A modality is just the mode of operation. A modality is the way in which something operates, its mode. And the three modalities are cardinal, fixed, and mutable. So the sign's energy works in one of those three modes. It's either a cardinal mode, which is taking action, going, doing. We're talking now about the fixed signs, which are about holding, kind of steadying, stilling, slowing down the energy. And then we'll look at mutable. So those are three modes, modalities. So Taurus as a fixed sign is about the holding on to our physical resources, maintaining and accumulating that which brings us pleasure and development and stuff like that. Leo is about holding and maintaining and strengthening a sense of our identity. It is what makes us special, what makes us stand out and unique. It's our special identity, and we hold on to that sense of ego. It's kind of our central ego. Scorpio is this land where we hold on to emotions. We hold on to emotional connections. It's that way that we get really hooked into our relationships, the deep, intimate, emotional qualities that we hold on to with others. And then Aquarius is really about holding on to ideas, concepts, frameworks for what could make the future better and things that are related to society and humanitarian efforts. It's holding on to the framework and the architecture of that mental process or that social goal. So it's holding it together. Next is mutable. And when we talk about a mutable modality, the signs working through that modality are changing, adapting, dispersing, and learning. There's something about all the mutable signs that's kind of can be a little scattered. It can be diffuse. It's changeable. It's adaptable. All of those qualities where it's not going to stay the same. It's kind of the finisher. If you think about it like in a sequence, you've got the energy that starts it and takes action and gets going. You've got the energy that holds and accumulates and steadies it. And then you've got the energy that finishes by kind of rearranging, toggling, letting things go and moving on to the next cycle. And I've tried to illustrate those on this graph here. All the signs that have that just burst of those straight lines, energies rushing out, those are all cardinal. The ones that have an amassment that I tried to make look like a solid chunk of energy are the fixed signs, that energy is being held. And then the ones that are all kind of squiggly and wiggly and wavy, those are the mutable signs. The keywords that I've underlined for each, cardinal being about action, fixed being about holding that security, and mutable with the learning and the changing and all is it's got that learning quality. So when we take earth, air, fire, and water and overlap that, all of our fire we could say has something to do with identity. All of our earth signs has something to do about physical resource. All of our air signs are intellectual and social, and all of our water signs are emotional and relational. So again, cardinal is action. So Aries is identity in action. It's you going out there, jumping, running, doing things. It's you putting yourself into action with your identity. Emotional action with Cancer, that's caring for those that, we want to get them a glass of water. We want to cook them food. It's caring for other people. And it's our own emotional security. What's going to make me feel secure and comfortable and protected? So it's taking action for all those measures of emotional action, taking emotional action. Libra is social and intellectual action. It's taking action to meet people, social action, the interface of putting yourself out there for others. And then Capricorn is physical action. It's the process and the nuts and bolts to accomplish something, to take a project from the beginning to the end. So it's taking action to further and advance a project. Fixed security, we have physical security with Taurus. So that's all the things that are going to keep us physically safe. It's our money. It's anything that's showing, physical, material, 3D world resources to keep us secure. Identity security with Leo, who I am, hear me roar. Emotional security, and even with the water signs, they're also soul action, soul security with Scorpio. It's the idea of really bonding and kind of cementing relationships in a form that is holding on to them and keeping them secure, wanting to hold on to relationships. And then with Aquarius, it's social security. And that's the idea of, what kind of framework and what kind of social structures for humanity are going to elevate and uplift the collective. It's the security for society in Aquarius. Then with mutable learning, plugging that in with each. If we have Gemini, that is intellectual learning. I mean, that's kind of the classical learning. This is where, Gemini is all about how we accumulate our knowledge, the ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, and fundamentals of knowledge base, how to communicate. It's learning about learning. With Virgo, we have physical learning. It's kind of the learning process of navigating the nuts and bolts of the physical world, how to process things, putting them in order, sorting, systemizing things to make physical efficiency more smoother. We learn and we adapt so that we can do the job better in Virgo. We have identity learning in Sagittarius. That's the idea that my identity is bigger and broader and further and wider than just me. And so I'm immersing myself in foreign cultures and faraway places that give me a broader sense of who I am and bridge my identity deeper into a collective or cultural identity of which I'm a part. So it expands and grows the identity. And then soul or emotional learning in Pisces, that is the experiences, often things, sadness, or we have to let things go, or, the idea of the give and take in relationships, or learning how to do without things and learning how to be more compassionate and emotionally understanding and sensitive. So there's a quality of emotional or in soul learning that takes place in Pisces. So that is one level. We can also look at these three modalities like the holy triad. And I think like Buddhist systems or Hindu systems do well with that concept of these three, the creator, the preserver, and the destroyer, like the three faces of Shiva, I believe. Um, Cardinal signs have that quality of the creator. They start things, they get it going. We're starting our identity. We're starting our comfort, our family. We're starting relationships and interactions. We're starting our jobs and our goals. So the creator energy is what births things, gets them going, run out the gate. The fixed signs are the preserver. That's what steadies things. It holds them there. It's like that middle thing. We've got birth, and this could be thought of like holding on to the life. So we've got fixed with the preserving quality of preserving our physical resources, our physical needs, our physical comforts, our physical resources, all of that, especially financial with Taurus, but preserving and holding on to those qualities. Preserving our identity with Leo, preserving our intimate emotional entanglements with Scorpio, preserving our ideological framework for the goals and hopes for society in Aquarius. So we're preserving and holding on to things in all the fixed energies. And then mutable would constitute the destroyer. Not that they're all necessarily destructive, but the energies of all the mutable signs are more apt to let go of whatever the old way is and change things. They're open to new ideas. They're open to new input. I can kind of think with the cardinal and fixed. Cardinal just bam, I want to go. I'm instinctual with action. And then fixed signs, there's more of this instinctual with non-action or holding, setting back, all those things. The destroyer quality and the mutable sign just shows that they are willing to wax and wane, go this way or that. They'll let go and whatever either course of action or course of holding was in play, it can be destroyed. It can change with the mutable signs. They're willing to try something new, and that's because they're bridging into that next quadrant. Each mutable sign precedes the next cardinal sign. We can also think about the modalities as seasons, because each one essentially represents a seasonal quality. So the cardinal aspect is the beginning of a season where its signs are starting to appear. So we've got cardinal fire with Aries is spring. It's the beginning of spring. We're starting to see new buds on the flowers, new life starting up, animals mating, new babies. So we've got new signs of life in spring. We've got new signs of summer in Cancer. Cancer is the beginning of summer. So that's when we start to see everything starts to be kind of a little bit more lush. It starts to be, the fruit starts to come in. You have the infant fruit that's starting to grow in the beginning of summer. It's starting to, the baby food in a sense, the small food on the vine, it's starting to come in. The beginning of winter is the cardinal sign of Libra. And so we've got the idea of starting relationships, and that's kind of going on with the idea in fall. Things are cooling down. The heat of summer is over. And so there's a little bit more of a let's go inside, let's interact, let's mingle. It's like a going indoors at the beginning of fall, and there's that mingling. And then the beginning of winter with Capricorn, it's where you have to do the cold, hard work to get through the winter. So it's the nuts and bolts of what do you got to achieve to get the homestead ready for that winter that you have to endure through. So it's that starting that serious process. Fixed signs occur in the middle of their given season, and they're the most saturated and full part. So at the beginning of the season, it's coming on strong, and we notice it fierce because it's starting, but it's really accumulated and in full effect when we get to the fixed time of a sign. So the middle of spring is in Taurus, And that's where we start to see that all those new buds and that new growth has started to come in and it's full. There's full heads of, leaves on all the plants. All the trees have got their leaves. There's just a real earthy appearance of life in the middle of spring. The middle of summer is Leo. That is when it's the hottest, hence it's ruled by the sun. We're in, the heat of summer. And that is the time of summer that's all about play. It's all about fun and entertainment, just like we think of for summer. It's, being out and about and being creative and doing fun things. Scorpio, we get the middle of fall. And that's where you can definitely say it's got the appearance of death the strongest. You can see no leaves on the trees, opposite of Taurus when it's full of leaves. So it's got the appearance of death. Everything is bare, cold, dead, seeming in the middle of fall for Scorpio. For the middle of winter with Aquarius, there's an icy intellectualness with Aquarius. So that icy middle of winter is very much a time where we're bunkered down inside. And so there's that idea of kind of socializing perhaps indoors, like being with others of like mind, all huddling together in one space, exchanging ideas, and also being very much in our brain, very much in our head in Aquarius time. It's cold, we're inside, so we're coming up with, new ideas and innovations and things we want to accomplish and brainstorming in that Aquarius season. And then the mutable is the end of a season. That means its lingering trends are still evident. We still see the signs of that season, but so are the previews of what's to expect more regularly from the next season. So in each mutable season at the end, we still see, and we're used to all of the same signs from that season, but things from the upcoming season are kind of coming in. You have some days, at the end of spring in Gemini season, some days will have a more summer feel, where summer's still more spring. So that Gemini mutable air sign at the end of spring, we can think of how that's a time when things are starting to disperse. Gemini is all about the dispersal. I think of like a dandelion and you blow the seeds everywhere and they go proliferate everywhere. So in spring, you've got the burst of buds and new life, and then it's all in full lush effect with greenery everywhere. And then seeds and the new animals, the babies are leaving the nest. There's this dispersal quality leading into summer. And so you start to see some fruit on some of the trees. You start to see those baby animals out and about out of the nest. So it starts to bleed into summer. The end of summer is our Virgo season. And so we've gone through summer where we've got infant fruit coming in and everything's kind of lush and fruity and getting, we're taking care of our baby plants and baby animals and home cozy at the beginning of summer, spending time with family. And then in the middle of summer, we've got plenty of food. All the fruit on the different plants is in full bloom. And so we've got enough to share from the harvest and, have a good time, have a party, everybody eat, drink, and be merry. Well, Virgo is the end of summer. And so there tends to be a little bit more focus on, okay, what do we need to get together? It's the time of like canning your different produce or drying things out and preserving all of the fruit in the harvest. It's this harvest time where we're getting it ready for the time of the year where we don't have food coming in fall and winter. So Virgo is like the end of summer where, there's still food coming in and there's still life on the vine, but it's starting to be less and less. So we've got to be more preservative and careful with what we've got to make it last. And so Virgo kind of does that work at the end of summer to get everything in order. And we'll start to see some chillier days and some days that are starting to bleed into fall in that in-between time. When we get into fall, start going inside and interacting and mingling and just kind of chilling out with Libra. And then as fall gets a little bit deeper, everything is cold and dead. There ain't no more food out on the vines. You got to be resourceful about surviving. You have to go out and, find things that are buried or, steal from other animals, or there's this resourcefulness of we've got to survive the time period without any food and the appearance of death being the strongest. And then here at the end of fall, Sagittarius is kind of a unique spot. They say it's between a rock and a hard place with Capricorn and Scorpio. But the end of fall, there tends to be a little sense of like, we're going to make it. It's like a little rebirth in our in our spirit. I mean, there's this like, you know, this cold kind of dark place of Scorpio in the middle of fall where everything is kind of getting, you know, barren and cold. And but there's a time in Sagittarius, this is around Thanksgiving, where we share, we're a little bit more open with others. There's the idea of wandering. You know, if I've already used all the resources in this area and I've done everything I can, there's the idea of I might have to go out a little bit further to find the things that I need. So it's going out further and exploring at the end of fall to see what else there is, right before things kind of close up and kind of get colder and harder in winter. And then winter is starting with Capricorn, where we're doing the hard work to kind of buckle down inside and make sure that we're safe wherever we've landed. Make sure that we've, you know, getting the house fortified, all the projects that need to happen to make sure that the winter is a success. And then we're kind of indoors and a little stir crazy intellectually brainstorming in Aquarius, inventing new things, but very much in the mind. And then Aquarius leads to Pisces as our mutable end. And at that stage, you start to see it's still got cold wintry days where we're still inside and secluded and isolated and reflective, but you start to have those wacky days of warmth with spring is there. And so there's a chance to kind of explore the spring and think about what we want to do when the winter ends. And so we dream and we reflect and we meditate and we get ready for what we want to do with this new energy that's coming in spring before it starts up. So there's a very seasonal quality to the modalities, where the cardinal signs start a season, the fixed signs are the middle point, that's the firmest of the season, and the mutables are where the seasons are changing and shifting to the next. Can also look at the modalities as having a more yin or yang flavor. And so cardinal signs are all yang out the gate. If that's a sign about taking action, action is inherently yang. So it's an active impetus to initiate. Go do is the motive of our cardinal sign. So we've got that yang burst of doing action with Aries. We also have that yang burst of nurturing and comforting ourselves and taking action domestically with Cancer. We have the action to socially interact and engage others with Libra. And we have the initiative and action of yang energy in Capricorn, to advance a project, to graduate, to make something happen. The fixed signs then are the opposite. They're all yin. They're the energy that's more like, I'm not going to budge. You cannot move me. And so that fixed earth we see in Taurus, you know, Taurus knows what it likes what it likes, and you can't tell it to, you know, not like that or do something it doesn't value. It doesn't want to budge from that. Leo has a strong sense of its identity. It knows who it is and what makes it special and its identity, and it doesn't want to be inauthentic or cave or do anything that's not a part of its identity. So it doesn't want to budge from that identity. Scorpio is very fixed with its emotional relationships. It does not want to change the relationship dynamic necessarily. It wants to really penetrate and saturate with a relationship type energy. So it gets very very in its zone of what it feels is true, what it feels is right when it comes to emotional matters, shared intimate matters, and it wants to hold on and just kind of keep that ride or die cohesion together. And then Aquarius does not want to budge when it comes to its ideas, basically. Whatever its goals are, whatever its ideological framework, it's very iconoclastic quite usually. It's a unique and unusual, but it's very set in some way. It likes to stay with its framework unless something new breaks the mold. It's got that Uranus in there, but there's still something very set about its way of thinking, no matter how weird or unusual it is. It's set in it. And then the mutable signs, they have a quality of doing both. Since they are so flexible and adaptable, mutable signs are willing to swing between whatever adaptation is the best toggle at the time. So it's like, you need me to go? Cool, I'll go. You need me to stop? Cool, I'll stop. So the mutable signs really do swing both ways. Gemini, talking and listening, conversating. I mean, it's really like driving around and like, finding the intersection, go, stop. So there's the on and off adaptable quality to interaction that we learn through with Gemini. Virgo's go and stop pertains to its task that it's working on and all sorts of daily routines for self-improvement. If it's time to get something done, it gets something done. If it's time to, hold something and wait and get more information, it can do that. So it's the most malleable of all the earth signs, really, but it's able to kind of stop and go, red light, green light. Sagittarius has also got some of that quality. It likes to wander and it is fire. So there is quite a lot of yangness to it being that fire sign with that. But there's also the quality of just kind of being quiet and listening, being insightful, going within for the insights and all of that. So there's that back and forth quality to Sagittarius. It will adapt. It's not, out of the three fire signs, really, Aries is strong out the gate forceful. Leo is strong out the gate forceful. Sagittarius is the most willing to be, to like make concessions or to put something to the side for a moment to think about it. So there's a little bit more of a passivity with that Sagittarius that we can see. And then Pisces is also our last mutable sign that does both. The idea of slipping in and out of things. Pisces is great at slipping into an occasion, being unseen and retreating, staying still, and just kind of being invisible in the background and observing. It slips and slides and goes where it needs to and stays when it needs. So again, with all the mutable, there's a little bit more of a back and forth quality. With all the fixed signs, there is more of a holding to what it enjoys quality. And with all the cardinal signs, there is a taking action and making things happen quality. Let's see. Question kind of in, do different month signs have the same come out aspects? Sometimes you see August, Virgo, September. That question, I'll come back to that at the end. Modalities as the three sections of the zodiac wheel. So this is a unique perspective. If we take the 12 signs and divide it into three, we get bundles of four. Our first four signs are Aries, Taurus, Gemini, and Cancer. So that's one set. Then we have Leo, Virgo, Libra, and Scorpio, another four set. And then we have Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces, the third four set. Each set goes in the same order: fire, earth, air, water, fire, earth, air, water, fire, earth, air, water. So those three different sections we can think of as being kind of like holographically or fractally. The first four are like a cardinal section of the wheel. The next four are like a fixed section of the wheel. And the last four have got some mutable section of the wheel qualities. And what I mean with this, cardinal, the first four signs, they're all an introductory or startup of the nature of each element focused on the creation of personal identity. So the most cardinal of all would be, Aries. So we're starting our identity, we're doing things, we're taking action. It's like the essence of fire. Earth, like a rock, it's still, Taurus is that way. Taurus is where our earthy nature and what we accumulate of the experiences from our actions start to build as we develop our taste, what we value, what we like, what we don't like is starting up in Taurus. Gemini is by being mutable, flexible, both ways, totally aligned with the air, how air goes this way and that. And it's where we develop our personal opinions and our mind. Based on our experiences and the things that we value, we want to analyze and learn more about them. And we develop a certain amount of the way we think about things, what we know, and then what we think about what we know. And so that's developed in Gemini. And then the last one, Cancer. Cancer is where we really take all of our action and our values and our thoughts and we hold them all together in a little bubble or a little nest egg that's our soul. It's the congealment, like a little bubble that congeals of who we are from these things. It's our emotional identification and sense of self that develops. We have the second sense of self that's emotional and feeling. And so these first four signs are all what start up, cardinal, they start our process of self development. The next four signs are where a person's identity is most mingled in exchanges with others. These four signs are all about the hokey pokey of other people. And it's keeping it most karmically bound and back and forth and interactive karma. So, what that means in these four signs, because they're so interactive with other people, they are energies that kind of are the fixed central hub of our activity in this wheel that really holds us. If you think about relationships, the give and take, the cause and effect, our relationships are where a lot of the karma in life is created, good, bad, and indifferent. And so the more karma that you have, there is a sense of it has a mass, it binds, it holds. So it holds us to various elements of ourself through the exchanges that we have in those four signs. So with Leo, it's all about ourself performing in front of an audience. It's us and the audience that we are exchanging our karma with, who we are and how we present ourselves and how people receive who we are. And that back and forth is a really solid, fixed part of who we are. And if you think about these three, they all start this set of four started with a cardinal. Now that we're in the second set, it starts with Leo, which is a fixed sign. And the last one will start with a mutable sign. But so Leo, we are holding our identity together that is getting karmically created based on the interactions and the feedback we get between who we are and what we show to the others that then receive us and applaud or give us the thumbs down, whatever our audience says. Virgo is the karma in the exchange between us and either those that work for us or those that we work for. It is the subservient type of relationships where we serve others or others serve us. On the karma between the jobs, how we serve others or are served with others, those are all part of that nitty-gritty balance of our karmic tally with others. Libra, hard to say that one's not with dealing with people. It's all about our partnerships. It's who we engage. It's how we make agreements and contracts with other people. How we engage in what we agree to, what we find agreeable and pleasing. It's how we please others and want to be pleased by others. What we find pleasing. So all of that type of relational quality gets us into all of our relationships with others where, again, a lot of the karma that sticks to us the most usually involves the other people. When it's just us and ourselves, we can work it out with just us and ourselves. But when we have karmas that are bound with other people, we require the other people to work through the karma. So there's a sense of that's fixed. It's an amassment of karma and energy. And then Scorpio is where the land of relationships gets deeper. It's the business sector of how we are doing business, how we exchange goods back and forth and share power and energy with others. And it's really the karmic hotbed of our relationships with others and the karmas that really bring us up or bring us down involving our relationships. But all four of those are a central place of interacting with others. And it's kind of a core heart central place in the wheel of development with that karma that's created through those exchanges. The last four, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces, they are our collective signs. And those final four have a mutable way about them where community efforts and aims release karma through collective contribution and more selfless surrender to the whole. So with all four of these, we're about the bigger collective society. We're going out into other cultures and foreign lands and all of that with Sagittarius. We're talking about society at large and our work and career in that society with Capricorn. We're looking at just all of the collective, our humanitarian brotherhood, and humanhood, whatever. The whole collective of society is also in Aquarius. And then you have the oneness of everything, all blended and merged together without differentiation in Pisces. So they're all about the larger community, and there's something about releasing karma or changing and adapting as we learn from other cultures, and we go and explore and share insights. When we teach and we learn, that shifts karma. When you learn a lesson, it can clear the karma. So we learn, we have this broadening experiences. Then in Saturn, that's where you do the hard work. That's where you typically have tasks to complete. There's hard work to be done, and when you accomplish it, it creates it accomplishes. When you accomplish the hard work of the karma, it accomplishes something at large out in the world. It provides something that is like a sense of security out in the world that helps. It provides a structure that helps clear karma. Aquarius, it is by liberating and elevating and seeking to bring greater freedom to the collective. That is eliminating karma or freeing us and transforming and upgrading the karma. And then Pisces has got a quality of atonement, which is at one-ment. It wants to put everything back into a state of oneness, which it does by dissolving boundaries. And so we release anything that's like leftover residue in karma in Pisces. So wheeling through these one more time, those first four, you really start up your identity. You really cardinal take action to develop who you are. It's really about who you are in self-development with those first four. The next four are where we start to take our self-development and it's interactive with others out in the world. And so all four of those signs are really where the karma is held, because it's like in constant traffic back and forth between different people. So it's more in a held state of karmic transaction. And then the last four signs where we're doing more collective community work, when you work it off, this, back here, we're working back and forth, but we're working for something bigger. And as that work is a little less involved with the ego and other people, and it can become more centralized in society or the greatest whole, it becomes a way that we are changing. We're letting go of some of the things that were held, and making room and space for another new cycle when spring comes again and a cardinal cycle comes back. Quick question I saw. How do you know if the lesson is learned and the karma is released or accomplished? I would say you don't have the same issues coming back around. If you have the same issue or the same, I've got this problem with this person and they're gone or they die or I move and then I meet someone else and I'm having the same types of issues, I might be still having that same karmic thing. Whereas once I have the aha or something is done, is there's not as much of a sense of needing to keep tending to the same thing or having that repetitive nature. It's not really those things with like, there's a checklist where you can say, oh, your karma, you have 36% karma left. And, oh, you've cleared 12% of your karma. You don't really know. So it's not something where, you're going to get an A or a check mark if you've learned a karmic lesson. It's really just about, that you have passed the lesson because as karma is released, karma has a binding effect. You are bound to karma. You're bound to the people and the situations and the things that hold us to them for some kind of completion, whether it's we hold ourselves mentally, emotionally, psychologically, or there's something physical or external that holds us to it. Something about karma is holding it, and because the cause and effect is plinkoing. When it is resolved, there's a sense of liberation, there's a sense of freedom and lightness. The same thing that once held us or bound us no longer does. And so there is greater range, greater freedom, greater movement, greater peace, all of those types of things. So those would be some signs of a lesson being learned. The last part I think that I'm going to show with the modalities is getting into esoteric astrology, which is a level of astrology that's based just on the soul, It's where we kind of get away from the mundane concerns of the ego, like money and relationships and job, and we're looking at soul development, the qualities that matter. And there are said to be three crosses of the zodiac in esoteric astrology. You have a mutable cross, Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces. You have the fixed cross, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius. And you have your cardinal cross, Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. And they kind of are, you can think of them developing in a sense backwards from the traditional cardinal fixed mutable, which is why I've listed them in the reverse order. The mutable cross signs are associated as a whole with a series of incarnations and lifetimes for people that are called mundane. And mundane incarnations mean you're just kind of about the personality. You're trying to figure out how to keep a job, how to do relationships, how to develop your typing skills, how to drive a car. Like it's the mundane things where we're going through a lot of fluctuating experience and learning. You're learning in the mutable cross how to be a human, how to do things, how to navigate the 3D. Mutable cross experiences are where the ego eventually becomes cognizant of the soul. But overall, they're not. Those four signs, and it does not mean like if your sun or any planet is in one of those signs, you're on that cross. As far as knowing which cross you're on, that's really an inside job. It's an intuitive thing. There's not like a checklist for that either. It's just three kind of phases or modes of consciousness. I will say that most people, the majority, live on the mutable cross. And that mutable cross, again, they're learning. With Gemini, you're going back and forth with it's the variety of life, all the different possibilities and opinions. Virgo, how to navigate 3D existence. Sagittarius is getting the idea of, what I believe in, what are my beliefs, what are, cultural truths. And then Pisces is that kind of interconnection to God. It's that emotional learning of life that, life is suffering. Why do bad things happen? Why do sad experiences? How do we deal with those human qualities of suffering where we have to be a small human, even though we are this large expanse of everything? So there's a learning about what it means to be human that takes place on the mutable, when the soul is on the mutable cross. And eventually it wakes one up to their soul development. You start to realize that, oh my gosh, I'm more than just a personality having this human experience. I have a soul that continues eternally, and I want to develop that, clarify that, and just make it its best. At which point the soul is said to then mount the fixed cross. The fixed cross signs are those indicating soul-based incarnation. It is where the personality has said, I know I am more than just this human being personality. I have a soul, and nurturing and holding on to those soul qualities is what has the most value. So it's holding on to the soul. With Taurus, those qualities we could see as being those objects or the things that are physical that reflect the values of spirituality, all of the things that can be physically manifest and created that are shining examples of the soul that is within, the creativity that becomes physicality. Leo, I mean, every man and woman is a star like the sun. And so it's that idea of developing the identity as a spiritual capacity. Scorpio is bringing in the idea of soul development when it comes to burning out the impurities and making one the best version of themselves, the most powerful, in alignment with their higher self that they can be. Holding to the higher self is what happens through the path of probation on Scorpio. And then with Aquarius, we have the idea of kind of like utopia, the dreams and wishes and hopes for society futuristic advances. And it's all, when we think about the technology in Aquarius, it's ideological. It's the mind of God. It's having your mind plugged into the supercomputer of God that then we can receive the information and the ideas and get the visions for how to move forward and produce the future, essentially. So all four of those fixed signs represent a cross that is holding to our soul development. And then finally, there would be very few people that are living on the cardinal cross. It is more of an aspiration. Again, I'd say at least 80, maybe 90, like majority of life, people are on the mutable cross, dealing with personality stuff and figuring out they have a soul. Then you have a small percentage. If we said 90% of people are mutable, maybe about 7% of people are on the fixed cross, and they are just about developing their soul. They've got their physical personality intact, but it's more of just a functioning apparatus for the soul to use. They want to solidify their soul nature at that level. The cardinal cross is once something is so fixed in its soul potential and its soul quality, once it's solid and sturdy then it can begin to work for spirit. The shamans, the monks, those that are in direct inner intuitive rapport with God's source and doing God's work as directly as possible, work from the cardinal cross. Those are our true spiritual warriors out there. Mutable people, they're just learning to be human. We're bouncing around, we're making mistakes, getting messy in karma. Fixed people are like, oh my God, I have a soul. It's been accumulating karma. I need to slow down and make sure I'm developing my soul. There's a slowing down of just holding on to soul development, making sure my soul is strong, kind of letting go of the personality, putting it in the background, and fortifying the soul in the fix. Once the soul is fortified, bam, then the spirit can work. Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. This is hierarchy-based spiritual incarnation that should say denotes to taking action in direct service to the divine without ego in the way. Those would be the souls that are able to, when God whispers in your ear and says, jump now, they jump. Or go to this place, they go. They do God's work. Aries is just a force of power, God's powerhouse. Cancer is a force of God's nurturing. Everybody is family and love for all. Libra is God's force of relation and harmony, fairness, right relations, putting things together, harmonizing social components. And then Capricorn is God's boots on the ground. It's getting it's taking the kingdom of heaven and putting it to work on earth. It's actually building the castle, climbing the mountain. It's God's boots on the ground. So those four cardinal signs are the cross through which spiritual action can take place, from a place that's guided by what's best in divine order from a more of a hierarchical perspective, rather than just one's personal soul. So again, mutable, working through their personality things, learning, figuring out they've got a soul. Fixed, really fortifying and working on that soul development to make it of service for the divine. And then cardinal, putting our personality in action for divine after having that soul security in place. So those qualities of mutable, fixed, and cardinal are what we would call those three esoteric crosses. That, and again, there's not a way to say, hey, I'm on this cross, or because this is my sign, that's the cross I'm on. No, it's just a developing kind of scale of consciousness, and there can be some experience of kind of wobbling between. I would say a lot of people that are approaching the fixed cross, they're going to have experiences where we're still dealing with all of our personality, mundane stuff. But then we also recognize the soul and we want to develop that. So there can be some in between before we're kind of on one cross. You might fluctuate back and forth, but there's a general kind of flow of, working with the personality and getting to the soul, developing the soul, and then putting yourself in action. Um, so let's see. That's all of the stuff I was going to cover on modalities. So I'm going to go back to that one question I had. Do different month signs have the same kind of aspects? Um, and yeah, so like it doesn't matter if someone is an August Virgo or a September Virgo or like a November Sagittarius or December Sagittarius, they are all, it's the sign is the same. And so it's, a September Virgo or an August Virgo. Virgo is still going to be mutable. It's still Virgo. So that's not anything that would change between the months. And then I see the question, where do I consider myself on these crosses? I just like I said, I probably toggle in between the mutable and the fixed. I don't have a big ego to think like, oh yeah, I'm spiritually developed and I'm just doing all God's work. Like, that's an aspiration, but I've got to have some discipline. But I still have plenty of personality stuff and confusion and whatnot that shows that I'm learning on the mutable cross. I do recognize the soul quality of life, and I do want to grow my soul and focus on the soul. So I am approaching and trying to ride the fixed cross as much as possible. But I do not think I am on the cardinal cross. I'm not, hearing the voice of God and following it heedlessly in all callings. So I don't think I'm to that point. Anyway, those are our modalities. I'll pop us back up to the beginning. And let's see, does anybody have any questions? Let's see. Got a minute to see if anybody has any last minute questions. They can be related to modalities or anything astrological or metaphysical at all. While I'm waiting, it's a good chance to just remind people that anyone that attends an Astro Round Table, you're welcome to chime in the conversation through the chat or with voice like we've had going on today. And it's also an opportunity for people to ask any questions that they might like about anything metaphysical, esoteric, astrological, etc. All right. I'm not getting any other questions.
I think you covered it quite well. Thank you.
Yay. Thank you. Well, with that, I am going to mute that. And I stop sharing my screen. And I'll stop. Well, actually. All right, you guys, I'm going to call that a wrap for Astro Roundtable number 3. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you guys next time.